The decision to enhance the role of the NATO senior civilian representative in Afghanistan is a clear sign that we understand this need in practice. That realization should be codified in our new strategic concept. We've seen enough history since 1989 to know that complex emergencies and failed states will be features of the world we inhabit for decades to come. The alliance needs access to tools that can help us deal with these continuing challenges. We also need to think about threats to our networks and infrastructure, such as cyber attacks and energy disruptions. Managing these problems requires close cooperation with the private sector, and NATO may not take the lead in these efforts, but needs to be involved. Allies should work together to enhance our preparedness and our defenses. Now, the alliance has taken preliminary steps, such as agreeing to a cyber defense policy, but we must continue to keep pace with the evolution of these emerging dangers. Missile defense, we believe, will make this continent a safer place, and that safety could extend to Russia if Russia decides to cooperate with us. It provides an extraordinary opportunity for us to work together to build our mutual security in the 21st century. The spirit of collective defense must also include non-traditional threats. And we believe NATO's new strategic concept must address these. Energy security is a particularly pressing priority. Countries vulnerable to energy cutoffs face not only economic consequences, but strategic risks as well. And I welcome the recent establishment of the U.S.-EU Energy Council, and we are determined to support Europe in its efforts to diversify its energy supplies. Missile defense, we believe, will make us safer because clearly we see a threat. We see a threat that is emanating from the Middle East, and we see a threat that can only be addressed in the spirit of collective defense. How we do that and how we recognize the importance of addressing it is something that the strategic concept needs to tackle with. We also need to assess NATO's role in deterring and responding to terrorist attacks and nuclear proliferation. We know these are key problems to our security because, for example, a terrorist training camp in a lawless country can pose just as great a threat to our security as the conventional capabilities of an adversarial neighbor. Americans will always remember NATO's decision to invoke Article 5 for the first time in the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Thankfully, the prospect that we would have to face this again has not come to pass. But we have so many dangers, including the danger of a nuclear attack from a non-state actor. We know that non-state actors seek nuclear capability. We see that, unfortunately, every day. And we know that nuclear proliferation and the development of more sophisticated missiles in countries such as North Korea and Iran are reviving the specter of an interstate nuclear attack. So how do we, in NATO, do our part to ensure that these weapons never are unleashed on the world? Part of the answer lies in continued nuclear deterrence. And the United States has responded to our threat by not only maintaining our nuclear deterrence, but also developing a missile defense system that is designed to protect our territory, our population, and our forces throughout NATO. We believe NATO needs to develop its own missile defense architecture so that it can defend nations of Europe. And the Obama administration's new approach to missile defense, the phased adaptive approach, will be our contribution to that new architecture. It isn't just NATO that needs to respond to the new threat. We need to make Russia a partner in our efforts to prevent nuclear proliferation and in missile defense. We invite Russia to join NATO in developing a missile defense system that can protect all citizens of Europe and of Russia as well. And this brings us to the broader issue of pursuing new partnerships beyond the strict confines of the alliance. Given the global nature of the threats we face, NATO will need to strengthen its ties with such new partners. And the strategic concept should examine how to leverage this cooperation to make these relationships more productive. Now, I know that in the past, the United States has been ambivalent about whether NATO should engage in security cooperation with the EU. Well, that time is over. We do not see the EU as a competitor of NATO, but we see a strong Europe as an essential partner with NATO and with the United States. We hope that the passage of the Lisbon Treaty will help us advance this relationship. And we look forward to working together with the EU as it applies its common security and defense policy to determine how we can best support one another and the United Nations in addressing security challenges. In many cases, as with the EU and others, NATO will seek out opportunities for collaboration with countries and institutions that share our principles and our priorities. But we may also pursue partnerships based on shared interests or geographic necessity. I want to speak most clearly about our relationship with Russia and the NATO Russia Council. Let me state unambiguously, while Russia faces challenges to its security, NATO is not among them. We want a cooperative NATO-Russia relationship that produces concrete results and draws NATO and Russia closer together. The Russian government has come forward with its proposals for a new European Security Treaty and a new NATO-Russia treaty. Now, we believe that some of Russia's proposals contain constructive ideas, and we welcome the opportunity to engage seriously with Russia on this important subject. But as I made clear in my speech in Paris, the United States does not see the need for new treaties, and we believe discussions of European security should take place within existing forums for European securities, such as the OSCE and the NATO Russia Council. We have real differences with Russia on several issues, and we intend to use the NATO Russia Council as a forum for frank discussions about areas where we disagree. We will use it to press Russia to live up to its commitments on Georgia and to reiterate our commitment to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states. We will use it to challenge the assertion put forward in Russia's new military doctrine that NATO's enlargement and its global actions constitute a military danger to Russia. We will also use the Council to advocate on behalf of human rights and individual liberty. These are principles and values that Russia committed to uphold when it accepted the NATO-Russia Founding Act. At the same time, we should use the Council to advance our common interests, including the indivisibility of our common security. Because Russia and NATO face common threats. We face it from extremists and drug traffickers coming out of Afghanistan and Pakistan along their border. As a result, we've agreed to cooperate in training counter-narcotics officers from Afghanistan and Central Asia. And Russia is now allowing NATO to transit non-lethal goods across its territory in support of our ISAF operations. And we hope to extend that cooperation to other fields again, most notably in the area of missile defense. We believe we can build more mutual confidence through measures that increase transparency in Europe. And European security will benefit if NATO and Russia are more open about our armaments, our military facilities, and our military exercises. NATO and Russia should have a regular exchange of information on posture, doctrine, and planned military exercises, as well as specific measures to permit observation of military exercises and to allow visits to new or significantly improved military installations. We look forward to working closely with all of our allies, Russia and our other partners in the Conventional Armed Forces in Europe Treaty during the coming months to reverse the erosion of this valuable regime.